This book, She Returns to the Floating World, was inspired by several things. My childhood love of Hayao Miyazaki's movies. I don't know if you've ever seen him. He's this wonderful anime director. And many of his movies feature brave female heroines and eco-warrior messages. My robotics professor father took many trips to Japan when I was a child, bringing back storybooks, mysterious toys, and snacks. My little brother, who decided to minor in Japanese in college and helped me learn about the Japanese language and culture, and his wonderful professor of Japanese studies, Dr. Ayako Ogawa, she and her family read through this manuscript for me over in Japan to make sure my folk tales were not crazy and all those things, so that was really nice. I started researching and fell in love with Japanese folk tales thanks to a Japanese Jungian and religion scholar named Hayo Kawai. And he has done some wonderful translations of Japanese folk tales and also kind of explains about what they mean about the Japanese culture to have these folk tales, which is just wonderful. And finally, I grew up in the town of Oak Ridge, Tennessee, where they built the bombs that landed on Hiroshima. My father consulted at Oak Ridge National Labs as a specialist in nuclear waste cleanup. The same nuclear waste products that poison my own childhood home are the ones affecting Fukushima now. And this book is dedicated to all who have suffered through this horrible disasters this spring in Japan. So with that, here are a few poems from She Returns to the Floating World. A letter from the suburbs of Seattle to the suburbs of Tokyo. I will send my voice out over the water, where the same cedars that litter my coast used to tower over yours. Once green, your cities have nibbled forest into bonsai. Our hinoki trees are shipped across the ocean for your sacred temples now. Postcards of volcanoes rise from a blue sky in the background of our homes. We share zones of tsunami, seasons of weeping cherry. I read about women's spirits haunting peony lanterns in the forest. Men follow them, fall in love with women long dead. In shallow graves rotted with tree roots, they still sing. And here, in pages hammered from your language into mine, sometimes with clumsy fists, I have listened to the bush warbler mourn her children. The foxwife's eyes in the darkness have warned me of the growling of dogs and fire. And when they disappear in silence, it is not really silence. Their echoes burn themselves into stone, into the living screens of my childhood, fill my mouth with ghosts. Ghosts sit in my mouth and sing. Our grandfathers were at war. I grew up in the birthplace of bombs that poisoned children, burned holes into your sacred earth. Their poison is part of me. In the shelter of a shrine, a small girl holds an umbrella. She becomes a white bird. She whispers, and 1,000 cranes, 1,000 burning flowers pile up inside me, spill out onto these pages. Forgive me, ghosts, from my hard, unbeautiful hands, from my tripping tongue, as you demand a healed future, some untorn prayer. So one of the recurring characters in the book is Anime Girl, who's kind of a composite from all the anime I had watched, and this is called Anime Girl Delays Adulthood. She may or may not have burned down her school, but you know she likes to strike matches, throw them in a circle around her, pray to some unknown god of fire. Broken, you think, she must be in high school. Her skirt is too short, her hair still in pigtails, feeding stray cats and playing video games under a bridge. You watch her rinse out her socks. Barefoot in the water, her lips pursed, she peruses her surroundings, surreptitiously sneaking shots of the ruined warehouse in the distance with a camera, an eerie glow on the horizon. You wish her the best. You hope she leaves and never comes back. You hope for a kiss, a sandwich, a burned thumb. You were never right for her. She was always on the lookout for an easy out, the last train to nowhere, the final frame. So this poem is about my little brother learning Japanese for the first time. And there's a couple of words in here, kanji, which is one of the Japanese alphabets based on, they're kind of like little pictograms. So older brother, for instance, is a big mouth on feet. That's kind of it's really funny. And then manga, which is Japanese comics, for those of you who aren't familiar. My little brother learns Japanese. In college, he learned to read right to left, practicing with manga, and learns kanji picture words, how the word for love can also mean indigo blue. He learns to conjugate verbs with no future, reads poetry that does not begin with I. He learns of weather reports of Sakura Zensen, the advance of cherry blossom fronts, and finds that falling blossoms can also mean dead soldiers. He knows the word for bird by its feet, and knows a village connects hands to trees. Little brother is a student. Older sister is a woman going to the city. He learns in Japanese fairy tales that siblings, not spouses, are often saviors. The older sister brings the dead brother back to life over and over again. The next few poems have to do with a character called the foxwife, the kitsune. And I found some wonderful folk tales about this fox that falls in love with a man who rescues her at the shrine of Inari, which is often decorated with fox statues. And this is from a translation of Niji Fuyano of an 8th century poem, The Man Who Married a Vixen, collected in the Nihon Ryoki. A vixen often visited this house and met a man, her husband. She had remembered his words, so she stayed the night with him. Since then, this woman was named Kitsune, which meant come, love, sleep. I love that. The foxwife dreams. My husband says, can't trust foxes, their eyes like geodes. The wind brings red fur in my window, and the smell of them clings to my sheets. At the shrine of Inari, he rescued me. I see in his face he will leave me, the foxtail beneath my bedclothes betraying. He swears he didn't know I was kitsune, though my sharp glances were everywhere, jumping when the dogs bayed. The brown silk robes of my youth, the smell of smashed leaves underfoot wherever I walked, the curl beneath the bedsheets. Foxfire, fox flare, fox fur, our noses were flames in the forest. The light of torn paper lanterns is never true, the moonlight uneven. He always praised my face, the narrow nose, high cheekbones, close-set eyes, my hair red even when I brushed it darker. Come sleep with me, he asked, even after. Stay with me. Far away, a fox barking at good fortune. Faithful, faithful, the vixen snaps at his ankles, the taste of rust in the mouths of our charmed children. So, taking a water break. This next poem is called She Likes to Pull Things Apart. The tissue-thin layers of croissant, the yolks of eggs, the membrane skin of pomegranate, all more delicious when displayed. In class, she dissected pigs, loved cracking the jaw, the incision from the corner of mouth to neckline, the beautiful tongue laid out. In med school, she sliced the rib cartilage of their cadaver, struggled to break open the rib cage to observe the heart within, how each is molded. She scratches at your shoulder the way she scratches a lime skin to burst the cells beneath her nails. She bites an earlobe or the blunt tips of fingers, your lower lip and thigh. She splinters ice in her teeth between kisses. This is the foxwife describes their courtship. I had given up the world, given my body to death or any possible rebirth. When he found me at the shrine of Inari, I became something else. But when the smoke rose, it was still me, terrified, turning from the heat. How could he quiet this new body, its voices and tears? When we're alone, I forget my other life sometimes, forget my sharp teeth and tail. I become the thing beneath his hands, softer. We all wear our voices out calling for each other. And when does that song end? He loved the falling cherry blossoms, crumpling peonies, the dying willow. He always sought to put things back together. I tear things apart. The instruments of bone and blood are the same, but the intents are different. I look down and see my paw on his hand. He sees the half-moons of nails, the pink skin. He sees the hope in changing seasons, and I only see the leaves departed, the savage inky trails of the moon on the grass. I know before he does how he will leave me a little temple of spine and fur. Mm-hmm. So, on a lighter note, this is called Advice Given to Me Before My Wedding, and it actually does consist of real advice. The naughtiest thing in this poem was actually contributed by Redbook in the mid-90s, I believe. So I'm just warning you now, I don't usually talk the filthy talk. So. Advice given to me before my wedding. Better to be the lover than the beloved. You'll have passion. Better to be the beloved, a sure thing, a lifetime of that. He is more beautiful, but you have more power. Which is to say, you are just like your brother. Lift your eyes and people do what you say. Who knows why? Men are like breakfast cereal. You just have to pick one. Fish in the sea, a dime a dozen, they are singing for you now. Keep your own bank account. Keep working. Give him a blowjob, and he'll volunteer to take out the trash. I told you, filthy. You are mine, says the beloved, and I am yours. Whither you go, I will go. Honey and milk are under her tongue. Cancer and Taurus, very compatible. You're the hard charger, he's the homemaker. Don't stop wearing lipstick. Don't put on any weight. Don't buy your dress too soon. If you go on the pill, your breasts will swell. One day you might regret, you might do better, you could do worse. One man's as good as another. Where are my old pearls? Here's the blue, a handkerchief embroidered with tears. If you don't wear heels, you'll be short in the pictures. If you don't wear a veil, people will say you're not a virgin. Good luck, glad tidings, a teddy, a toaster, so long, farewell. Marriage advice, it's crazy stuff. Now, I have a series of poems in the book called Aberrant Code, and they kind of recur throughout the book with the same title, so I'm going to read them interspersed. Aberrant Code 1 and 2. So many aberrations in the code. I watched a show about mutant heroes, evolution. My doctor asked if I had powers like the X-Men. When I woke up with one broken heart and all the crashing blood, your face was gold. You would never know from looking how unhuman I am. They are always trying to touch me. I push them away, try to explain how my animal self is different than theirs, but they don't listen. Try again later, the machine taps. So small, these animal parts, one giant cosmic swirl, a swarm of bees. The x-rays confuse radiologists. I can't even locate myself on this map. If you had known early on I could speak to the animals because I had been there, in the dust, that my fingers were familiar with grass and leaves and even the spiders understood. I ate the grass and prayed to become another being, but as I was already blessed with DNA so sampled, broken, that no one could relay its message. Underneath the grass and snow, the bodies of nuclear bombs. Spring whispers, but the fish grow limbs in the light. In my dreams I sail through wind, fight with swords. In this body trapped beneath layers of skin, some strange worm, some dragon, some other soul. There's this concept in Japanese called Mono no Aware. And I read about it, that Jungian religious scholar I told you about, Hayakawa. This is from his book, The Japanese Psyche, Major Motifs in the Fairy Tales of Japan. The feeling of aware, or softly despairing sorrow, which a Japanese person would feel for the female figure who disappears in silence. It is a Japanese cultural paradigm that a woman must disappear in order for sorrow to complete the sense of beauty. The woman is far from angry from the man when her taboo is broken. She just vanishes. Little girls, atom bombs. Miyazaki draws an angel rising from Chernobyl's coffin. Men with hazmat suits keep her in a secret room with signs warning, stay out of the sun. Life is not guaranteed. Kat grew up near Chernobyl. She tells me about the mushrooms from her town, showing up at markets miles to the east, 300 times full of the poison from Earth. I grew up in Oak Ridge, all my friends' physicists' daughters, sons of nuclear engineers. Behind our school, the giant domed houses of bombs. We played in snow measured with Geiger counters. In Seattle, I visit a statue of Sadako from Hiroshima. In her hands are dozens of paper cranes replaced after rainfall. She believed 1,000 paper birds could save her. 1,000 rainbow cranes marked her last birthday at 12. We read about nuclear winter, mutated farm animals, Chernobyl's goats birth tougher, scrubbier versions of themselves. We discuss eco-saviors in anime, become the little girl scrubbing the river spirit with magic herbs. Will these gods be appeased? Will we stop trees from growing radioactive fruit? Will 1,000 paper birds fly out of our mouths, carry away each splinter of poison, each molecule of twisted, irreparable DNA? Aberrant Code 3 and 4. Increasingly alienated. Alien. Subject 33. White. Female. dark brown hair, light eyes. The terms from there grow foreign. You wouldn't recognize me on this chart. So is this some interspecies love song? You, grown tree-like, me, a fox in the dust, some hybrid of woman and mythical beast? The sense of taboo, underneath all those layers of white nightgown, who knew? You wear a gold ring beaten from years. I like to chew jewelry. Your blood plus mine a disaster, our offspring sinking ships. Anyway, your hair is golden, just like the fairy tales. So you ought to expect some hidden chambers, some blood on the egg. There have been a lot of needles and blood, so the faint-hearted should turn away right now. Talk about mermaids, 100 years of love gone awry, my parents too imperfect, so digestive, reproductive systems blunted, unclear, blood too thin and lungs more suited for water than air. I should never go into the hospital, let the doctors look at me and wonder. I wasn't meant for this fish tank, this testing hub. Who cares what we're like underneath? You don't fall in love with what we peel under skin. You said, don't ask me if I'd do it again. I said, I'd be happier under glass. Sorry. He wonders what, exactly, he rescued. I had to do some poems in the voice of the husband of the foxwife, of course. His hands are full of brambles, and the woman in that tower a bit more feral than anticipated. It turns out she had a bone collection and a habit of turning princes into toads. With her hair cut short, sometimes her eyes and cheekbones look so sharp, she reminds him of some forest creature gone astray in a floating green dress. He makes dinner for the two of them, gently snapping asparagus, cutting the fascia away from a chicken breast with a sigh. A backfire, a black spire, a fear arc, a fey bicker, a creature with a beautiful song and sharp claws. Nothing the way he pictured it. Mm-hmm. This next poem, I don't know how many of you guys have seen Miyazaki's Howl's Moving Castle. Have you guys seen it? It's a great movie, and it inspired this next poem. Love story with fire demon and Tengu. Tengu is a bird demon in Japan folktales. Maybe in this version you are a bird and I have become an old woman. Maybe you ate a falling star. It's hard to love someone in a castle. They always feel so distant. I will open a flower shop and learn to speak German, take to wearing ruffled dresses and straw hats. You'd like to pin me down, but you could tell my feet weren't touching the ground. I called your name over and over, but you couldn't hear me above the din of the bombers. It was like movies of wartime Japan. I looked up and there were planes bulging with smoke. This blue sky kept getting darker. Sometimes I thought, with your shadow. In the end, I have a dog in my arms and a scarecrow for a friend, but I never make it to Kansas. The field is wet and stormy. I kiss 3 men goodnight for their magic. The door of your childhood is opening for me. It allows me passage to a brick wall, my fists full of shiny black feathers, the shell of an egg, the howl of cold wind against a mountain. Don't worry, your heart is in good hands. Let me keep it a little longer. Its blue glow illuminates everything. Mm-hmm. So, and this is Aberrant Code 5 and 6. I promised you a poem. I didn't say it wouldn't be about me. In the end, I can only write myself into smaller circles. On the internet, you can pretend to be normal. I can be a rock star and love parasailing. Otherwise, it's me and my stack of books, humming screens of the birds looking curious into the window. They want a hint of my story, but I can't even give them that. So many aberrations in my code, I can't tell you. One story's about nuclear waste and the other a trick of genetics. Either way, the ground here is sown with monsters, some of them weeping, some of them eating the furniture. What to expect? A misguided love interest, a tragic disaster, one more lonely heart echoing into the blue screen. If I were a guitar, I'd be screaming for you, my teeth sunk into you. 10 little birds cry about the stains on their chests. Was that the stain of dawn? All those gods and flowers mixed up. We're good to go. One suitcase of misgiving, one of dislocation. We've traveled this path before, so don't expect a happy ending. You, my friend, got your hopes up. Keep to the root cellar. That's where the truth lives, in the fingers of trees. Your fingers like tree roots. Say goodbye to me and my problems. Say hello to emblem and embrace. Speak to me softly with the teeth of serpents. The woman who disappears. I died that night on the operating table. It was not even childbirth, just the scalpel balloon that did it, tissue so fragile the scrape bled me to death. I did not wake up with cramping, infection, and fevers. My husband never drove me home, stroking my hair, speaking softly. I did not recover, and all my children were lost. Here I am, writing this poem as a ghost. You cannot come looking for me. If you put out a bucket for my spirit, it will not fill with water. If you pray to a tree, I will not arrive with the feathers of a white bird. Now, I cannot save you. We put our lives in the hands of others, and sometimes they drop us like eggs. Our castles disappear, and you will wonder, looking for us on the islands of cranes. My wings are those grown by the dead who try to rise again. And again, I let the husband have a little talking time. The husband tries to write to the disappearing wife. I could have kept you in the palm of my hand, but you weren't ready. I know I have lost your body, dissolved into particles, swirling like birdsong. I should have known when I started sweeping twigs and bits of fur and feather off our floors, when our baby liked nothing better than chewing beetles. Our bargain was never strong as autumn's last light, easily shattered. Why is it I want to carve you into my palm, from pain into memory, that I sit up night after night, recreating first the moon and moth, the white shrine, your eyes too bright to be human. The songs I write start with your hair, but end with your heart. No poetry seems right without your crooked smile. Without the scrape of your sharp teeth against my lips, there is no word for kiss. So, 2 more poems from the book, and then I'm going to read a couple of new ones. I timed this to be 28 minutes, and we'll be out here by 4. She returns to the floating world. Last night, I dreamed I was a firefly, and you shook a stick at me. I was a peony flower, my feet in the mud, and you put me in a vase to wither. I was a white butterfly, and your relatives shooed me from your deathbed. All these years ago, you promised me you'd tend to my grave, be faithful. I keep resurfacing, hoping one day you will know my name. You have to be more than human to begin with. Renewal takes time, spirit, and sinew. These bright containers, temporary. Every turtle princess, every puny girl knows beneath the surface of the water lies another world. I was in danger, and you could not save me. You are in danger. I am danger. If you hold my hand, you will disappear, leaving flames in your wake. You may return in 100 years holding a treasure chest full of demons and lost time. I promised you nothing except remembrance. Autobiography. No, last time you read me wrong. I'm not the main character, I'm the photographer, the one with her feet in the river. I'm the frame of reference, not the delicate willow branch, not fragile and crumpled as the peony. You mistook me for the love interest in a bunny suit, or read me as the robot. But I am neither. Here my abode is stump, moss. I am stronger, the wind can't kill me now. I leave town, and you won't hear from me again. Stop imagining I was waiting for your permission. I started this before you even knew me. It's not what you think. The story doesn't end. One more time, the dust off the butterfly wing leads to spring. After she vanishes, after you've already written her off, she is reborn, each time less likely to know the tongues of insects, more likely to smell blood. This time she'll be tumbling through a metal tube wearing platinum armor, armed with a crossbow, her hair in a Joan of Arc bob framing the scene. Don't be surprised. The woman reappears, and this time she will be a stranger to you. This time she will keep more to herself. So that's the end of the book here. And the next few poems, I since the Fukushima disaster, I've kept writing about the anxieties of the nuclear age and nuclear pollution. And also I thought it was interesting, yesterday a satellite fell down. So I wrote a poem, the last time a satellite fell, it was a spy satellite full of this really deadly hydrazine gas. And they actually had to shoot it down with a missile. So that's this poem. On the night of a lunar eclipse, a missile shoots down a spy satellite. I said, how can I miss an opportunity to read about spy satellites? Unstable frozen fuel tank, deadly hydrazine gas with the impact of a 1,000-pound bomb the size of 2 football fields. Minimize risk to terrestrial areas, coma, seizure, burned lungs, burned skin. The cleanup mission labeled burnt frost, waiting in my city, trucks and decontamination suits at the ready. On the night, the moon is dark and red as the mottled face of an angry man waving his gun in the face of another hides from us, gives us back our shadow. And in that shadow, we saw the stars. It would take minutes, they said, to burn the lungs enough to kill. Even if you survive inhalation, your kidneys, thyroid, liver, brain. And the sea, so quiet, so waiting to accept one more gift from us. One more handful of debris on the trajectory, my home and yours. Unstable weather conditions make it hard to predict. Uneven land masses, population densities, football fields. What's raining from the sky isn't love. The sky is falling, the news headlines read. The moon has turned from us and dimmed. The warships forcing their spacecraft homeward in shards. One more failed seeker with a heart of metal and poison. Anyway, the one yesterday was not nearly that dangerous, but I'm sure it would have been fun to have it crash.
Yeah.
What was really disturbing about that news story is they said, oh, we're not really sure where it landed. I'm like, don't you guys have scientists? You don't have no? All right. This poem is called Cesium Burns Blue, and I'm going to read a little note about cesium. Cesium is one of the main contaminants in the ground at Fukushima right now that they're trying to get rid of. Cesium burns with a blue light, explodes on contact with water, and has a highly radioactive isotope used in experiments at Oak Ridge. It can cause mental instability or other problems if absorbed through the skin or ingested. Children ingesting produce grown in contaminated soil might exhibit mental as well as physical symptoms later in life. Cesium burns blue. Copper burns green, sodium yellow, strontium red. Watch the flaming lights that blaze across your skies, America. There are burning satellites even now being swallowed by your horizon, the detritus of space programs long defunct, the hollowed masterpieces of dead scientists. Someone is lying on a grassy hill, counting shooting stars, wondering what happens when they hit the ground. In my backyard, they lit cesium to measure the glow. Hold it in your hand. Foxfire, wormwood, glowworm. Cesium lights the rain, absorbed in the skin, unstable, dancing away, ticking away in bones, fingernails, brain. Sick, burns through, burns blue. Mm-hmm. So one of the, I read an interesting news story about these fellows at a temple up in Fukushima who are growing sunflowers because sunflowers can leach the cesium out of the ground. Unfortunately, then when the sunflowers bloom, they are very, very toxic, and they don't know what to do with that. So, but this was written in response to that news story. This is called "A Morning of Sunflowers" for Fukushima, and this is my last poem. 200,000 sunflowers drink the cesium from the grounds of the temple where they burn the names of the dead. This invisible snow, says the temple's monk, brings us a long winter. A village woman mourns the loss of her blueberries. In Chernobyl, they grew amaranthus, field mustard, sunflowers, but how to dispose of poisoned flowers in spring? We build lanterns, we plant seeds, we set things alight. Thank you very much.